That is, in fact, a true answer. So is no one saying no? For example, ikin, justice requires that those who have benefited the most from industrialized support, who are now facing the most severe impacts of climate change. Many developed countries are highly vulnerable to climate-related disasters, despite contributing very little to the problem. That is also very, very true. Hazal Ilaida, international agreements like the United Nations framework, yes, the UNFCCC and Paris Agreement recognize the principle, common but differentiated responsibilities. The principle acknowledges that while all countries must act, wealthier nations have a greater obligation due to their historical emissions and greater ability to respond. Thank you guys for the question. So yes, this is a debate session. So as teachers, you can take this debate question, even create more debate questions, and so present your students with such questions. Thank you for all your answers. All the answers are true, correct. In a debate, there's no right or wrong. There is just opinion, and then there's facts, and just a crossover of information. So let's go back to our presentation. Welcome back from the break. We are starting again. So here are some examples of discussion topics for teachers to use in the class when addressing climate change. So, for example, should governments impose stricter regulations on industries to reduce carbon emissions? The purpose of asking such a question is to encourage students to evaluate the role of policy in combating climate change and the balance between economic growth and environmental responsibility. The focus of this question is the pros and cons of stricter regulations and how might these policies impact businesses and consumers, right? Because we said that climate change, everything is interconnected, everything impacts one another. It's like a domino effect. So when you ask, should governments impose stricter regulations, this has an effect on several industries, not only one. Other questions are examples, renewable energy sources like solar and wind, the only solution to global energy crisis, or are there other renewable energy sources? How can individual actions make a significant impact on reducing climate change? So the purpose is to help students connect their personal behaviors with broader environmental outcomes. So here, the individual will look at themselves. How can you make a significant impact? Moving on, how can climate change education empower young people to take action? This is a very, very important question because a lot of the youth know about climate change. They might not understand it fully. So when we integrate it into education, how can we make sure that they feel empowered to start taking action? So as it's written here, the purpose is to explore the role of education addressing the climate crisis and motivate students to think critically about their potential impact. Now, utilizing multimedia resources, documentaries, podcasts, and infographics for climate change education. So we are in 2025, and right now it is so important to be able to get on with the tech and the way that it's increasing in the world. So for students, as I mentioned a few times before, just putting information on a book, giving them the book or a paper is not enough anymore. We need to make it more interesting, and using and utilizing multimedia resources, such as the following that we will discuss, for educating on climate change is very, very important and vital. So they are essential for teaching climate change effectively. They offer visual, auditory, and data-driven ways to explore very, very complex topics. So how do we utilize media in an educational settings? We have documentaries, we have podcasts, and we have infographics. Documentaries, the purpose in education is that they provide real-world insights showcasing the cause and effects of climate change with compelling visual and expert narratives. They help students connect theoretical concept to practical real-world scenarios because they are watching it and they are listening to it, and whatever is showing in the documentary is real. An example of a documentary is one that is called Before the Flood. It is narrated by Leonardo DiCaprio. the content is that it explores the global impacts of climate change. So it talks about the melting ice caps, rising sea levels, and extreme weather, while also presenting solutions like renewable energy and sustainable practices. So we can educate students on global perspective and solutions to climate challenges through making them watch the documentary. Maybe after watching the documentary, they can write a summary of what have they learned, what was the most interesting part, and so on. That would be very, very interesting. Another documentary we have is called Chasing Coral, which is on Netflix. Underwater photography to document coral bleaching caused by climate change. So this is another factor. We have the floods, we have the deforestation, but now we go under the ocean to show the coral bleaching. Very interesting, explaining the science behind ocean warming and its ecological impacts, which is also an impact of climate change. It is useful for understanding marine ecosystems and biodiversity loss. Oh, and here we're going to watch a little video regarding the documentary Chasing Coral. And this is the Netflix, it's a 1-minute video of the Netflix advertisement for the documentary itself. I thought it was very interesting and would like you guys to take a look at it. Let's. So this video is owned by the Netflix MENA. It's also done by Netflix MENA. And of course, this documentary, you're able to reach it on Netflix. So another documentary is 2040, Join the Regeneration. It is exploring innovative climate solutions that could reverse climate change impacts by 2040. And it highlights optimism by showcasing renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, and of course, regenerative practices. So next, we talked about documentaries. We have infographics. So to help teach students about climate change, we can use infographics. Why? Infographics are very powerful tools for teaching climate change because you can combine the visual appeal with concise information, making complex topics easier to understand and to remember. So this is an example of an infographic. Also, the reason behind is when you simplify the complex concepts, as there are some technical terms, there is some carbon cycles, greenhouse gas effects, and feedback loops. When you break them down in an infographic showing images, pictures, elements, it is more easily to digest. Also, enhancing visual learning. So many students are visual learners who grasp information better through images, charts, and graphs, as well as engaging, retaining attention. Climate change can feel overwhelming, but infographics distill large amounts of information into concise formats. This helps keep students focused and interesting. So infographics can help teach students about climate change. We have here supporting data literacy. Infographics often include data visualizations like bar charts, line graphs, and pie charts, encouraging critical thinking. Infographics can present information in a way that challenges students to think critically. And promoting accessibility, infographics, of course, use universal symbols, minimal text, making them accessible to diverse learning levels and learning language abilities. Creating a call to action. So usually infographics include actionable tips and solutions to motivate the students to take small steps toward sustainability. So this is another example of an infographic that talks about global warming. So as you can see, it defines global warming, saying global warming is a phenomenon of climate change characterized by a general increase in average temperature of the Earth. We have what can we do to prevent it? And then we have here some facts with the number of the causes. What are the causes? Another one infographic is right here talking about environmental global problems. Very interesting, very captivating, very easy to understand, easy to read, easy to remember. Now, assessing student understanding, effective evaluation strategies for climate change. So evaluation, whether the student understood or didn't understand the content, is very important for developing critical thinking, problem-solving skills, and actionable knowledge. So why is evaluation important? It measures the learning outcomes. It measures how much did the students actually learn. Did the students understand the causes of climate change and its impact? Can they identify solutions and so on? So another reason why it's important is to identify the strengths and weaknesses. Evaluation makes it very easy for teachers to pinpoint the areas where students are doing really, really good, they excel, and where they need additional support. And so then the teachers will able to give this additional support and to help the students in areas that they're not sure they understand. As students may grasp the science behind global warming, but they may struggle to propose actionable solutions. Also, it improves teaching effectiveness, providing feedback to educators on what works and what doesn't. So even as a teacher, and you have another friend that's a teacher, you're teaching in a different school, in a different class, and you have a way, my students struggle with this specific topic and their students do not struggle with that. We can help each other and we can give each other the information needed in order for us to adjust the method of teaching that we are using. Another factor why evaluation is very important is that it encourages active learning. So engages students by making them reflect on their knowledge and participation through self-assessment, peer reviews. Students take responsibility for their learning. Promotes accountability, supports continuous improvement. So it ensures that the educational programs meet their goals. Climate education programs can be evaluated to determine if they effectively foster awareness and actionable knowledge, or if they don't. We can also have a basis for refining educational strategies, and circular feedback from assessments can lead to the inclusion of new, more relevant climate change topics or interactive methods. Another reason is that it facilitates personalized learning. It tailors education to meet individual student needs. As students struggling with data analysis and climate studies might receive additional resources or tutoring. It encourages critical thinking. Evaluations often challenge students to analyze, synthesize, and apply their knowledge, asking students to propose solutions to climate issues, foster problem-solving skills. Also, lastly, tracks progress, allows a student, teacher, institution to monitor good growth over time, comparing pre and post assessments that can show how much a student has learned about renewable energy and climate change and such topics. I believe by accident we have the same. Yes. Last, prepare students for real world challenges. So the evaluation makes sure that students is ready to apply their knowledge to real world situations, assessing whether they can communicate climate science effectively to peers or community members. So the key consideration for climate education assessment is to focus on actionable knowledge, prioritize assessing whether students can apply their knowledge to real world context, encourage critical thinking, assess their ability to analyze and interpret data, propose viable solutions, to promote collaboration, so incorporate team-based assessments to simulate real-world problem-solving scenarios, and use a variety of methods to combine traditional and innovative strategies for a well-rounded evaluation. How can teachers assess students' understanding? Through project-based assessments. So, working on a real-world climate-related project, such as, for example, designing a community sustainability plan or conducting a local environmental impact study. The applied knowledge and creativity, teamwork, critical thinking is how it helps the student. There are case studies, problem-solving tasks, so presenting the students with real hypothetical scenarios involving climate challenges such as urban flooding, loss of biodiversity. The way that it helps them is that it evaluates their own ability to analyze the data and propose solutions and justify their reasoning. We have formative assessments, so the ongoing evaluations. There are quizzes, there are polls, using digital tools like Kahoot or Google Forms to quiz students on different concepts like greenhouse gases or carbon footprint calculation, as well as reflection journals. So ask the students to write about what they've learned and how they plan to apply it. How can teachers assess student understanding? Another way is